Facebook. Get this recording happening. Oh my goodness, lovers, good, glorious morning. How are you?
Mhm.
I am so deeply honored to be here with my dearest friend, Seven, Dr. Seven Crow. And if you've been reading the emails and on Instagram, we are dropping in this morning to really share with you. I mean, number one, we've created this really incredible program, but this is, work that we've been speaking of for about a year now and really waiting for the right time to come, for it to really be birthed and come in. And so that, you guys will be hearing about this program over the next few months. But this morning, we really want to drop in and speak to you. I mean, I really want to speak around the whole connection between the vagina and brain and women and our work in the world that is so deeply connected and importantly, so intrinsic to our orgasm and our vagina health. And when I say vagina health, it's our, orgasmic health. And we're going to be speaking with Seven around microdosing, the dangers of, and also as a way that we're seeing it being done in the world, but also the profound effect that microdosing can support with around our stress levels, around trauma, around the brain, the nervous system, it all. So let's see. We're gonna be here for the next few months speaking all about this. So we're not going to give you everything today, but this is going to be a really beautiful, juicy conversation. So thank you so much for being here with me this morning, Seven, and I'm so excited to have you.
Oh my God, thank you. It's so lovely to be here. I absolutely love your work, obviously. So it's nice to be able to tag team and the two topics go together so well. It
Mm.
so well, so well.
Yeah, and I think that's, for I was thinking this morning, and as we've been conversing, obviously for the last few weeks, 3, 4 weeks, but and also with my community, where I've always been talking about pleasure and orgasm, and now this is seeping in. I mean, for me in my life, this has been a 2-year journey, with you walking side by side with you and having you behind my back, your support behind my back as I've really dove deep in the last 2 years, and your family, and you're so present with my son and I in what we've been walking through. And so I feel too, I've been feeling this with my community. It's like, oh, all of a sudden Melissa's talking about microdosing, but it's not something that's suddenly come in. It's been something that I've been walking with Seven. And I really would love to speak about that today too, of how it is, how they go so well together, and why,
Mm.
how that connection is deeply related. So I'm really happy for you to start off where you want to start, and we'll just have this as because we're women, as a flow
Hanging
conversation,
out,
but we do have points.
hanging out with our tea.
Mhm.
So, well, today I'm visiting you all from Mexico City. I'm getting ready to leave for Peru tomorrow to visit my gorgeous, beautiful son, who, of course, Melissa knows because we're family.
Yeah.
And also to go in and walk the medicine lands and meet with some of my elders. So I'm very, very excited. Plant medicine is a huge part of not just my personal lineage, but also a part of my life. It has saved me in more ways than I can count, and has been the backdrop of how I approach my life. So I think plants are really, really, really powerful, powerful allies. They're teachers, and as women, we have an innate connection to nature,
Mm.
right? So right now we're hearing microdosing is everywhere. Everybody's microdosing. Everybody thinks they know what they're doing. Everyone's taking something at some point all the time, and we're explorers. We're seekers as humans. We're very curious beings. So there's not necessarily anything wrong with empowering oneself to like step upon this path, but there's some more beneficial ways to approach that. So we're going to talk about that today for
Mm.
sure. But what I find, especially with plant medicines, when we're microdosing anything, right? So microdosing is taking sub-perceptual levels of something, kind of like homeopathic medicine.
Mm.
And it's been around for, eons. It's not like this new thing that the lovely Paul Stamets has come up with, or James Fadiman, or anything like that, the big names in microdosing. And even they say, yeah, every herbalist around the world has worked with microdosing of something, right? So,
Mhm.
when we think about nature and women's connection to nature, it's very innate. Women were always the gatherers and foragers of plants, right? So we had different ways of exploring and understanding these plants and taking little pieces of the plants and imbibing it so that we could have connection. That's how women relate to plants in general and most aspects of our life. So then you bring something in like plant medicine and you're taking these sub-perceptual levels, it really reconnects us back to those natural cycles of things. It really connects us back to Earth itself, allows us to be more expansive, allows us to be more creative and sensual and playful, right? And so those are the things, the core reasons that I really love working with microdosing over a ceremonial dose, right? Ceremonial dose would be something stronger.
Mhm.
Uh,
I mean, you just, I'm just, my whole body's rocking because as I'm hearing you, this is also the path of a woman into her orgasmic self. It's not this big bang. We're not going, I need to squirt. I need to have the big, it's the way that pleasure works in our body, which is in these layers and consistency of, I mean, Tantra has this beautiful saying of, if you think it's an orgasm, it's an orgasm. And the way that we have, society gives us the agenda of orgasm, it's this thing we're going for. Yet, as you were speaking, women are innately connected to earth. We are an orgasm. A woman is born because she's born with her nature of the orgasmic nature, the way that pleasure works in our body, the way the nerve, all of the nerve pathways for every woman is different in her vagina, of like where everything is situated. We're not all made exactly the same, but how it all runs up into our brain and connects into our brain, that we are in these, I mean, you could get microdosing with the orgasm. I don't know if that a new thing that but the way we drink our tea or put oil on our skin, the way when we walk out into the air and the cool breeze comes across our faces, someone puts a hand on the back of our head. This is the I was going to say unraveling, or the opening of orgasmic nature in our body as microdosing, as you were just describing. It's like I could just see all of these parallels. And no wonder it's so deeply connected. It's like we layer ourselves, or we unfold ourselves into our orgasmic nature with the embodiment of the feminine, because embodiment is consistency. Embodiment's also not this thing of like, oh, well, I've got to have those earrings on, and I've got to have, and I've got to look this way so that I can, and I will do, and it's consistency, how we're showing up with ourselves in the small moments, in everyday moment, and coming back into those moments. That is embodiment. And I'm really seeing these parallels with microdosing, the way that you're describing microdosing, of like, oh yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's walking in beauty, right? We all hear this as, it's an indigenous term, concept rather, of to walk in beauty. And it doesn't just mean like, looking gorgeous, which is also so lovely, but it just means like having that openness of compassion and fun and bliss about things, like the tactile sensations of stuff, like really being turned on by things. When we see beautiful food or a beautiful flower, we automatically have this oxytocin hit, this dopamine hit, right? So walking in beauty is having that connection to things, feeling in love with the process of life, rather than it having to be like, well, I have all this stuff to do, and then later I'll feel like I'm in an orgasmic experience of life.
And that's also kind of like that. It's like, oh, I'm going to travel to Peru to do a ceremony.
Sure.
My life is really hard here, and I'm really angry, and I'm really annoyed. Da, 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 da. I'll go over there and get fixed.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, one of the things like, I've studied lots of different plant medicines from around the world, but one of the things that I love about mushrooms, whether it's psilocybin or other types, is they grow everywhere.
Yeah.
They're our first species on the earth. Most cultures have a connection to them. So if you come from a European lineage, or you come from an Asian lineage or an African lineage, whatever, everybody has access to this. So there's not the same kind of fear or worry about appropriation in the same kind of way. I mean, if
Mhm.
you're walking around being like, I'm a Masateca, but you're like from England, that's a little different. but they're so friendly and they're so open and they're everywhere, right? They're literally Gaia's nervous system, right? They're the
Mhm.
internet superhighway of the earth. And as women, we naturally tap into that because of our own cycles, right? So working specifically with psilocybin, which is what we'll be working with in our program, is that there is this playfulness to them, right? There is this way that we connect with ourselves and heal ourselves. But as the Taoists say, because that's the perspective that I come from,
Mhm.
macrocosm to microcosm. How you're treating your inside is also how is reflected in the earth around you. And as we see how we as humans treat the earth, that's a direct reflection on how we treat the feminine, how we treat women. So microdosing especially allows that slow unfolding and reconnecting to take place. Whereas a ceremony would be you go in and it sort of blasts you, which is fantastic, but not necessarily. It has a different not. It has a different like mechanism of action, right? It has a different like focus or intention. Whereas when we microdose, there's that slow getting to know you kind of allyship, right? Rather than like,
Like
oh,
that,
okay,
the core play or the foreplay of the feminine body.
right.
Like, it's like, oh my God, they
It's
go
like
so well
it's
together.
like courting versus one night stand.
Yes. There we go. And yeah, we're not here. It's like one night stands can be so much fun, and the ceremony can be
Totally.
so fun.
But yes, but microdosing definitely has that more like slow, sensual
Mm.
unfolding. And so women who end up having, which many women do, various forms of micro
Excuse
sexual
me.
trauma, then when we're working in this slow, kind of sidling up sort of fashion, you're not hit so much with, oh my God, I'm so overwhelmed now. Instead, it's like,
Mm.
oh, hey, that's interesting. Let's go into that. Yeah.
So I would yeah, I feel called to share a little bit of my
Mm,
experience with you. And the
please.
reason I'm stalling is like, because this is this really beautiful flow. But when we're just talking about that, not having the huge hit of trauma, and and I'm going to be speaking more and more about this as time goes on. But I reached out to Seven. When was it? It would have been how many months before my birthday? So it's probably about 7, 8 months ago. And I was in a really deep process. I mean, I haven't shared a lot, and I won't, because what I've walked through with my Sven it's with my Sven, with my the father of my child. I've been in contact with the family in Belgium this morning. With my son is, because that's also been his process. But my son and I walked through something really large in the last couple of years. And I found myself about 7, 8 months ago with this immense sense of this is where things end for me. I need, I didn't know how to keep on going forward with it without it affecting me. So, it being this heavy, heavy thing that I carried for another, few years, 10 years, 20 years. And so I just want to speak. I don't want to go down into that. I just want to speak to the fact of this part of, reaching out to Seven, going, this is where I'm at. And with all of my work, I'm at this point where I really don't know how to go forward. I just felt this immense loss of joy for life, loss of wanting to even, be present in life. And so then going on this the microdosing journey with Seven, it was so incredible to, checking in, because this is something else I really want to dive in speaking to about, microdosing in a really good way of like where we're checking, the checking in. And, that is not that because I know Seven, and because we talk about this, I wasn't afraid. I think if I had never known anything about it and I was going to a doctor or therapist, I'd be like, oh my God, we're going to be dragging all of this stuff up again. Like I can't keep on being in the trauma or talking about it. I need to be coming up like this. And that's been my journey, with Seven. It's like I even get already teary up. It's like being able to check in with her and look behind us going, I am on an inclining. And it hasn't been the depth of having to relive trauma, to talk about it, to try and work it out. It's like coming up a beautiful stairway, like going up into a temple. And it's
Yeah.
so interesting, that photo, that when we were hopping in, Seven and I were on for a couple of minutes before we came in, and Facebook gave me this photo that I haven't seen. Sometimes you see the same photos through. And it was a photo taken that I took of my son 10 years ago in Bali, and he's at the steps of a temple.
Mm.
And that's also why I'm using that analogy right now. But this beautiful incremental way of our nervous system softening and life unfolding. To me, it's like the opening of the lotus flower, or the opening of a rose. And, it's been I know that, my son and but I have worked with you twice in over a year and a half in 2 different increments of microdosing. And it's just so profound. And often we also need to sit and remember and take notes. So we remember where we've been, because then we also forget, oh, it wasn't that bad. And it's like, so, so how are you feeling about this? It's like, oh, that's actually, it's opened, it's softened. It's not this sort of big bang, the big sort of release, the big, that then we also have to sit and manage the big release. That's what I also found with my journey. It's not this like trying to manage, it's an incremental move.
Mhm. Yeah, that's a really great way to put it. It really softens everything so that you have the skills to create new pathways of what you're receiving from your own internal landscape. So, for most people who are into plant medicine, we're like, okay, so how does psilocybin really work? How do other plant medicines work? So, specifically with psilocybin, it works on your serotonin receptors. Now there's 2 main pathways in the serotonin receptors, right? So in the one pathway, that's what SSRIs focus on, right? And that's SSRIs are great. I'm not against people needing to do what they need to do in order to care for themselves, right? So sometimes we need something like an SSRI or other kind of antidepressant in order to help us deal with what's going on. Like, it's so intense that we can't create new coping mechanisms. We can't create new skills. We just need a break, right? That's when SSRIs are really good. Now, psilocybin works on the second pathway of serotonin, and it's more for when you're ready for coping skills. You're ready to face what happened, right? You're ready to show up for it and the process. So these are 2 very important pathways, but they operate very differently in the body and in the mind. When we're working with psilocybin, it creates this neuroplasticity, right? This ability for the body and the mind, specifically the nervous system, to create new pathways, right? When you're stuck in trauma, you're going over the same pathway over and over. You're
Mhm.
ruminating, you're stressed out. Your cortisol levels are getting lower and lower and lower. You have low cortisol, or you have high cortisol, you have low serotonin, right? So psilocybin really gives your body this ability to create more serotonin in the system naturally. It's why also we have to be paying attention to what kind of diet we eat, what kind of foods, because when you microdose, it's such small levels that then if you're eating things or drinking things that
Mm,
cut the connection with it, then it's sort of a waste of time and energy.
mm,
So, you know, there's so many different styles of microdosing. People are doing so many things with it, but not all are created equal, right? Some people really need a they really need like a clinical setting. They're very scared of nature. They're very scared of really tapping into their spirit and the emotion of things. That wasn't your experience. You're
mhm,
all about, give me the deep feminine, give me my internal creatrix. I want to connect with her. Some people are not ready for that. They need something very regimented. They need something very clinical that makes them feel safe. More power to them, right?
mhm,
When, as women, we're talking about our internal landscape, our orgasmic way of dealing with our lives, that means that we have to turn certain switches on that require a space that's really yummy and comfortable, right? I believe all people really respond like this, but we're specifically talking about women, right? And so when we're receiving memories from the past, if we're going over trauma, we need a place in which there's not just a safe space for it, but where it actually like it shows up and we can embrace it and release it and move forward. And
Mhm.
that's why microdosing is really good,
Mm.
right? You're not getting hit in a ceremony. You're not like, it's not like being in therapy where you're talking it to death. It's like you're really reliving it, but in such a way that it's not overwhelming. You're able to see it with this more opened heart.
Mm.
Yeah.
So it's, I mean, that's also too, this 2-month container that we've created, it's a deep ceremony. We're going to be
Mhm.
in ceremony with ourselves on a daily basis, and also
Mhm.
as a group, as a circle, a women's circle, as we're
Mhm.
also, in support energetically, emotionally, and physically. Yes, it's online, but, in support of one another as we walk and hold hands, hold each other's hand, through the space. And I also feel, it's, to be doing microdosing, it's also not about that you have to come in with deep trauma, or that you have to come in with all of this stuff. It's that for me, when I when we talk about how women are the fact of our feminine experience of who we are as women in the world is always cancelled out
Mhm.
every single day. Who
Mhm.
we are as women is diminished. And that sits on our nervous system. That has a huge connection to our orgasmic uh, ability, our orgasmic state, the way that we, the feminine way of living in the world is deemed inconsequential. We're told that. You see it with your mothers, you see it with your grandmothers, you see it as we go to school. This is also a huge part of this journey with the microdosing, is unraveling those layers that do not apply to us, that are forced onto us. And then we get to really, the creatrix, we create our internal world out into the external world, and we shape our household, our family life, our work life, our friendship life. We get to have the power to shape that through the nervous system coming out of that constant. So it's like a low level buzz. It's like 5D, the electricity. It's like there's a buzz that sits inside of our body, because we know as women, like I even know last night, as I was coming home, at 10:30 at night, I was really clocking what I find is really normal. I'm like, oh my God, it's how innate it is in me to go, well, where's my bag? What's on top of my bag? How am I walking? Which street should I go down? Keys in the hand. And I'm
Mhm.
looking at men are not doing that.
Mhm.
Men are not doing that. They're taking up space. They're charging down the street. They're taking up space. I'm here. And then me as a woman, I'm clocking everything. And at the
Yes.
age of 50, I've been doing that. I have been doing that for 40 years, as
Mhm.
all women have been. And so then we're looking at that is also, the blockages or the numbing of our orgasmic self, because we're
Mhm.
constantly on. And this is the beautiful journey with microdosing. And I actually, something that I had my fingers crossed before, something I'd love you to speak, because I can give a testament to this. Some people, oh my God, but if I do microdosing, how am I going to work? It's with microdosing, you're not taking stuff and then you're sitting there going, oh my God, it's such a soft unraveling. Is like most of the time, there is no apparent difference. Do you know what I mean? That we're looking for. It's like you're not seeing all of these colors and there's a softness, but it's not this thing that you can't, like, it's not apparent that you've taken something.
Yeah, yeah, that's usually the biggest question I get. And so for most people, it's like the fear and anticipation is larger. And there's a number of people who are like, yeah, I'm gonna microdose, and they take these like fairly large doses. And I'm like, that's not a microdose, right? And there's been some really funny ones, but also they can't harm you, right? Like they're no, they're like they're not toxic, right? If you
Mm,
take the wrong ones, okay, obviously they're mushrooms are toxic, but you're not going to be hurt. There's nothing bad is going to happen to you. You might feel a little fear at first, but microdosing isn't like that. And I've worked with oh my God, I don't know, hundred thousands of people now. I'm like How many? So for like decades, I've been working around this, and it's like it really is very gentle, and we work up to this sweet spot. And so for the microdosing, it's like, yes, I go through and I talk to you, I look at all your health stuff, I look at different interactions of things, and we find the dose that's really good for you. Like there's a lot of support,
Hmm.
right? In that, even while we're going through these really juicy topics about, the gateways of our vagina and of our body and our sensuality. But mushrooms are really there to open us up. They're really fun, gentle, loving beings,
Hmm.
right? They're not as scary as some of the other plant medicines. And again, it's very subperceptual. Anybody who's taken homeopathic medicine, right? It's less strong than, say, taking some of your vitamins or supplements that you might take every day. It's very, very tiny doses, but it's so amazing how they
Hmm.
work in the body, how they help lower those cortisol levels, how they help like rewire the nervous system and help the dendrites, right? So grow so that you're having extended life, that your neuroplasticity, right? That means that you're able to relearn things. 5, 10 years ago, no way, neuroplasticity, not possible. Once you're, our age in our 40s and 50s, you're fucked. That's it. Like, that's how you are. There's no change. But we know that that's actually not true.
Hmm.
We know that you can change, you can start to learn new languages. And I think as women who are in their 40s and 50s and have been living this life of, number one, having to be on guard all the time, and number two, having to be um, like invisible in society. Like we get to a point where we're invisible in society and we don't really know, well, what am I attracted to anymore? And do I feel sexual? I don't know. It's like it really opens you up into this new connection. You find that you're deeper in with your pleasure, you're deeper in with your connection to spirit, and your relationships are better. There's a lot more like relaxation. You're not taking everything so seriously or stressed out all the time, right? So they really work on multiple aspects of a person's
Hmm.
life.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Just pointing on that, what you're talking about, how, also too, as we get older, the how we are deemed invisible in our culture and society. And then if we think of, we spend all of our not wanting to take up too much space, not being too loud, we're trying to diminish ourselves. Well, we feel we need to stay safe, we need to diminish ourselves. And then we move through this thing where it's like, okay, now birth the nation, do as you're told and bring more people onto the planet for our government's sake. And then we're just handed the invisibility card, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, this is
Yeah.
really important deep work.
It really is. And one thing on that, I took myself out to dinner last night, and there was a woman who maybe my age or a little bit older. It was a little hard to tell because her outfit looked like she was 18, but she was in this very like she looked older, and there was this like really strange disconnect between who I think she envisions herself and who she wants to be and how she was interacting with the world. And like, hey, you do you. Like, people can show up however they want for sure. But I think that when women get older, we often don't know how to be seen. There's either this like insane aggressiveness that's not really rooted in our true self-worth and desire, or there's that silencing aspect. And so I found that rather interesting last night. I was like, she definitely needs some mushrooms.
I would just say the whole world does. I mean, the
The
fact
whole
that
world.
they are in every
Absolutely.
land, the fact that they are
Yeah.
everywhere, it's like we're all on the internet. The fact that the mushrooms are that frequency for the planet, it means they are here for everyone,
Oh, 100. Well, for most people.
for most
So
people.
I,
Nothing's
I I do want
100%.
to I do want to be honest that if someone has a lot if they come from a background of very severe mental illness or addiction, it's not that um, mushrooms or microdosing can't be helpful, but there's definitely a different way you have to approach things.
Hmm.
So like I was saying before, there's many different ways that you approach plant medicines and microdosing. I work from a holistic angle. And so, holistic microdosing, I haven't heard anybody use that term, but that's the way I feel about it, and allyship. And so what do
Mm-hmm.
those two things really mean? So first, holistic means I look at everything. Like, what are you eating? Because that contributes to your sexual health, right? Your mental well-being. What kind of exercise are you getting? What is your spiritual connection? And that can be anything, like whatever it is, but how are you showing up for your spirit? We have 5 energetic bodies: your spiritual, your mental, your emotional, your sexual, and your physical. You got to be nourishing them in all ways, right? So holistically, I want to look at things. Sometimes it doesn't matter how much plant medicine you take. If you've got a hormonal issue, it's not really going to help. Maybe you'll be like, well, I'm okay with it, but it's not going to get to that root. So that's what I mean by holistic microdosing, is we really want to look at like what's going on in general, right? So for our program, I have you fill out a pretty lengthy form.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
second of all, it's about allyship, right? You wouldn't walk up to somebody you don't know and say, oh, hey, can you do all this stuff for me? We want to introduce ourselves to this glorious being that is literally underneath of our feet all the time. The mycelium network is everywhere, and they're always talking. And the mushrooms absorb that, right? Mushrooms are also about entropy. They're about eating things so that it dies and rebirths again. So we're doing that within our own body over and over again. So allyship means showing up for this being, learning from it, creating a relationship with it rather than, oh, I'm just going to take this thing, right? Because that's a disconnection, and that's not what we want. We want this continued friendship with these
Mm-hmm.
beings that we're taking into ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm. I just feel so like I feel so nurtured just having this conversation, and this is the depth of the conversation of the feminine as we started, as you mentioned, it's like we are deeply connected to nature. It's, the way our walk on the earth is so exquisite, and what is on the outside what is on the inside on the outside, and our orgasm, that's also too our orgasmic nature
Mm-hmm.
reverberates out into the world, is that women, all of our oxytocin levels that reset or heightened, or we have more oxytocin the more that we hang out with women and that we feel safe and we feel joy. Like, it's how our hormones also produce themselves. We produce more
Yes.
happy hormones as we are in safety, as we're with people, as we're with women hanging out. It's those traditional parts of community where the women would cook together, gather together. We gather information, we're gathering estrogen flooded in the brain. It's just so exquisite, so exquisite. So
100%. And,
mhm.
I know that we're all online now, but quite frankly, I find that really fascinating and really yummy. It's like I get to hang out with you. We're not in the same part of Mexico right now, and I get to see your gorgeous face and have a beautiful conversation when this
Mm.
wasn't possible 10, 20 years ago or
Yeah,
20 years ago,
yeah,
like we grew
yeah.
up without computers and Zooms and stuff like this. But even if you're in a small town and you're with people who you're like, who are these people? And you can't find people you're really aligned with, that's the beauty of online, right?
Mm-hmm.
And also
Mm-hmm.
coming together as women, there's this point in the beginning where people like we're really afraid to be vulnerable, but
Mm-hmm.
being vulnerable with one another is actually our gift. That's our medicine in order of connecting ourselves, of healing our own ancestral lines, of healing each other and having that spread out, of returning this trust in the feminine rather than, over the last 1,000 years being told that we're evil and keeping us separated and we should hate each other and be in competition. But
Mm-hmm.
instead, it's like, no, let's come together. Let's communicate. Let's microdose. Let's talk about our orgasms. Let's talk about how to feel pleasure in life. And
Mm-hmm.
not just like walking around like nymphomaniacs, but walking around in this deep sense of connection to things. Like, that's pleasure. That's bliss. What brings you joy, right?
Mm.
Yeah.
I just had that
Yeah.
sentence come through, they speak about this in Tantra, and I'm pretty, yeah, in so many different circles, is, on the other side of pain is pleasure. And I always equate the word pain as with trauma. When we're talking about trauma, it's not always this huge, big thing. It's the micro trauma. And when we look at pain, to me, pain is
Mhm.
also being closed. Like, that's painful. It's really,
Yeah.
we're separate. So on the other side of separation, on the other side of being closed is the opening. On the other side of pain is pleasure. You know, in the what is held, our great grandmothers, our great grandmothers, our grandmother, our mother, and our life is held in the vaginal wall. Where it's
Yeah.
not a wall. It's not a wall. It's like in the tissue of the vagina. Like this is the universe. Like when we enter into, you know, we go through the gateways, and that's what our program, you know, has, is the gateways of our palace. You know, they're all of the gateways before we're inside. Then once we're inside, there's more gateways. But this is the gateways to our lineage, the gateways to our future. You know, like with
Yes.
this is the portal. It's more, you know, the word universe has been used a lot, but I don't think there's also the depth of understanding that it is the universe. It's our direct line to God. It's God consciousness. We walk with God consciousness within our orgasmic self, because we are born an orgasm. And it's
100%. Well, hopefully, anyways.
what did you say? Sorry?
Well, hopefully we're born in orgasm, you know.
Hopefully we'll born in, but the fact, true, the depth,
Yeah,
by pure nature of the female body, the
for
fact
sure.
that it's, you know, what is available to us, how we, the fact that, you know, when we're around one another, oxytocin is built. Like we are this walking orgasm, this potentiality of joy and love, and we're heart-centered. If we look at our positive pole, it's the heart, and the heart is about more. More love, more joy, more nurture. Like that is our positive pole. It's how we walk through the world. The men, their positive pole is their cock. It's the gender, is like the erection. You know, the direction of the erection is there. They're straightforward. Our direction into life is heart-centered. It's more, it's openness.
I love
This is
that.
that allyship that we have.
Sure. I was talking with a woman this morning actually about the program, and she was like, "Well, I'm not partnered, and I'm not interested in
Mm.
being partnered, and I just want to share I have been purposefully celibate for going on 6 years." And actually, the first four of them, I think you may remember this when I was like, I'm done. The first four of it was I was recommitting to a plant medicine path, and so it was very important for the elders that I worked with that I stayed celibate, that my energy was into myself, and you know, no one amazing has come along, and I'm actually really happy with this. But what I wanted to say was, for me, being in my orgasmic nature, be connecting with more orgasm, connecting with my gateways, connecting with my pleasure with microdosing has helped me be a lot more available and open to what is aligned for me personally, and to have a lot more humor. I have a lot more playfulness with myself. I feel happy. I know what turns me on more than I did before. And so you don't have to be partnered. And if you are, fantastic,
Mhm.
congratulations. But there's also something really lovely about being your own partner, for a time
Mm.
being, and really stepping into what do I really like. And plant medicine and sexuality and orgasm, especially for women, is such a taboo subject. And so the more that women bring that energy into themselves and really stand in this strong alignment of who they are, and that strength and that sensuality, it exudes from you. You can't help it. Whether you're
Yeah.
having sex or not, your whole being is just like, yeah, I'm here, what's up? Like it's this beautiful glow that you have, right,
Mhm.
about it all. So yeah, anyone who's
That's
concerned about that, no worries.
Yeah, I'm really glad you brought that up, because I mean, in our world, it's like, yeah, with single, so successfully single and glorious, and understand it's like this, the self-partner, the deep work of the cervix is self-partnership. To
Mm,
to be in the depth of your world of the cervix, you need to have self-partnership. That is self. That is, and these are those gateways, and this is in a journey. I would even be, you know, bold enough to say, if you are partnered, go by yourself for 2 months. It's like the deep work that we do with ourselves is so important. And also we have a cultural narrative that to be well, to be successful, to have orgasms, to be so luscious, you need to have another. And we know we so know that it can be so far from the truth for the majority of people. Most people that I know are in relationships and they are not in deep union because they're not in deep union with themselves. They are not having the most incredible, exquisite unfolding of their spiritual work through orgasm, because the other is also very unaware of that. And we're trying to we're asking permission. Could you please slow down? And then whatever their answer is equates to whether it happens or not. That is and I know I'm generalizing. So the fact of being on your own or going on this journey as someone who's single couldn't be more potent. To me, that's more potent, because once we have that container, there is no asking. It's like, this is what I need. Oh, okay. That's okay. I hear that's not possible for you. Thank you. Over here. And what we find in partnership is, and this is that thing with the feminine, it's like, we're waiting. We are taught, the energy that is handed to us through family, education, everything, is we're at the whim of the other. We will only have good sex, or we'll only have great orgasm if the other knows what they're doing.
Yeah.
I am sovereign and autonomous over my orgasmic self. If someone is unable, unwilling, that's okay. That's their journey. They don't get access to this. If they are willing, if they're curious, because I want to be curious about them. But if they're not going to open up with that curiosity, then okay, I'm not going to partake. I'm not here to have this. I'm not here to have soft serve ice cream from McDonald's. You know, I'm here to have the degustation menu.
And and I've heard you speak about this before, and it's something that I really love, is like, you know, women, and I think children in general and teenagers are taught that are anything sensual or sexual, or what goes on with our body is the responsibility of the other, when really it's the responsibility of ourselves, right? So just like what you were sharing there. And oftentimes if you've been in like serial monogamy or lots of dating and this and that, it's like it's good to take a break to be like, okay, I need to clear this out. Let's get recentered and figure out what really turns me on and what do I really want, right? Because the universe provides for sure. But if you're kind of all over the place, then the universe is like, well, you seem to like all this stuff, including
I had to, thinking about the universe provides, I want to tell a really gorgeous story that I've just realized this morning. And as you know, it's like every now and then I get on dating apps, but I never go on dates because I get so bored I get so bored quickly. I have really great, and also too, what happens, I have really great questions. These are my boundaries. And often what happens is I place them into the chat, and the guy just he deletes because it's not interested. I want to know about your values. I want to know about your ethics. I want to know what sort of work you've been doing on, and have you done any study into tantra or kink? Like, I'm not just going to go out and have coffee and dinner to sit there and know that the conversation is just, oh my God, I want to be juicily involved. So generally 99.9% of the time, nothing ever happens out of it. And so then yesterday, I'm just thinking, I'm getting these off my phone. I don't even need these on my phone because I don't use them. And I kind of go in them, and then I get really annoyed and bored. And so it's creating this thing for me. It's like, I'm taking the apps because I don't use them. So I cleared them. I took them off my phone. Yesterday, I also need to clear up space. I'm like, why am I going through my photos and videos? I'll get rid of those apps. I don't use these two apps. And then I'm this morning making my, my little espresso and my water and looking out, and I went, yeah, universe, I'm meeting people out in the street, please. That is what's going to happen. I go up to the Mirador with my dog. This gorgeous male human comes down with this gorgeous boy little dog. My dog is Fever. She's such a flirt. If it's a boy, she's pathetically joy. I mean, I shouldn't say pathetic. I love watching her. She gets so joyful. She gets so excited. Her whole body just combusts. And here's this gorgeous man with this male dog. And I'm just like, thank you. Just like that.
Right?
And it was beautiful to appreciate, his presence, because he felt really strong but soft. And because he's got his dog and up the Mirador, and I went, oh, samesies. I've got my dog. We go up the Mirador. But it was just this beautiful moment. We just talked about our dogs. I went, why did I talk about my dog? But it was just straight away. And, as I go up that Mirador all the time, and Certainly, I haven't seen humans that are gorgeous looking to me going up and down there. As soon as I told the universe that what needs to happen, I'm going to be in the street today. I want to meet some gorgeous humans.
Yeah, yeah, we're gonna talk about a technique that I love to use for manifestation when we're in the group. I'm not gonna give you too much now,
No.
but it's so yummy. Like this allyship works for our connection to the universe.
Mm,
From the Taoist perspective, we're always in communication, our environment externally and internally, and they mirror each other. So if you're in a stressed out, scarce, freaked out place all the time, well, then your nervous system's going to be the same. Your hormones are going to be all over the place, right? Your weight's going to be fluctuating. You're not going to feel happy. So it's like, I'm not saying that you just have to be like, universe, I need to be happy, but actually it is a fucking first start, like
mm,
let's literally show up and really speak out about what we truly desire in our lives. What are our requirements for having a good life? What are our desires? Not just wants and needs, which can have a sense of like scarcity or like,
mm,
to it. It's like, what is it that you really want? You know, when you really ask someone, what are your desires and requirements? Oftentimes they don't even really know. What are your values,
mm,
right? What
mm.
does really turn you on? What turned me on 10 years ago does not turn me on now. So it's
It's a,
always
oh,
good to
sorry.
recheck.
Mhm. It's a really important thing for many women to understand. When we get asked, what do we want? Most women will talk out loud needs. And it says, that's
Mm,
not a want, honey. That's a need. That's a non-negotiable.
right,
And when we say, what do
exactly.
you want in a relationship? Well, and they talk about integrity. It's like, that's a non-negotiable.
Seriously.
Integrity is non-negotiable. That's not a want. That's not a desire. Oh, that's probably a better, what do you desire? I want a man that, where I feel safe to do whatever it is. And it's like, that is not a desire or a want.
That's a
That is
requirement.
base level, foundational, non-negotiable.
None, yeah, like,
So we're not
you know,
used to having, we're not used to, because we are told we are required to diminish ourselves to
mhm,
exist, to stay safe. And so then it's also that what is not safe is to want or desire. I mean, even in many spiritual communities, the bullying tactic is that we have to get rid of our desire. Like when my son and I lived in Costa Rica, that whole land, I mean, we were in our incredible wooden house up the top of the hill with everything. And there was this constant dogma of, you have to get rid of your desires. You have to get rid no way, man.
yeah. Well, what's interesting about that? That's a very masculine.
Mhm. Control mechanism, because anyway, we
It
won't.
is. It is totally control, but it's like this very. And I'm gonna throw Buddhism in there too. And I know some people like Buddhism is beautiful, but there's a lot of like patriarchal crap that also comes from it. So these
Mhm.
very like patriarchal religions, you know, yes, there's beautiful aspects as well, but there really is this top-down approach to the spirituality where it's like in Christianity, Catholicism, Judeo-Christian stuff, Muslim, Buddhism, anything, it's like we are going to be in the mind, not embodied, because
Yes.
the body's unsafe, the body's like not the enlightened space, and women are of the body,
Yeah.
where and so that like really permeates a lot of these spiritual realms, right? But women are really of the body. Technically, women were the first shamans. When you look at the history of shamanism, and now shamanism is an umbrella term, but the history of shamanism from around the world, women were always the first shamans. Now it's been co-opted by the masculine, not saying there aren't good masculine beautiful men who are shamans. I've met them, they're gorgeous, but that women have always been shamans, and now we're being told that our spiritual nature, oh, it's just about birthing. It's like, well, first of all, you grew a human in your body, and for the most part it leaves your body and both of you live. That's fucking miraculous, quite
This
frankly.
is, that's a phenomenon. That is phenomenon.
It's
It's a
phenomenal.
phenomenon. It's
It
phenomenally
is.
incredible.
And think about it. It's like you have this being that starts off in the spirit realm and grows here, and then it becomes matter, it becomes life, right? Externally. And that's only through the vessel of the feminine. And women have always been connected to the spirit realm anytime we bleed. And then after we bleed, our energy is all to ourselves. And so microdosing has actually been, and plant medicines have been a part of this shamanic realm for women for eons. It's been a part of birthing practices. Been a part of moon lodge or red tent practices. So there's so many ways in which the women can connect with plant medicines in a very different way than men can. And that's beautiful, right? And so owning that and really stepping into that is so juicy, which is what we are doing in our beautiful program.
Yes.
If I wasn't a part of it, I'd want to be in it. I was like, this looks good.
This is, yes, delightful, delicious, and deep and yum. So I'm going to put the link in below, and so that women can start checking it out. We have our early bird price. You've been, Seven's been the incredible technic guru, tech guru.
Right.
When our early bird price is up until when, darling?
May 12th.
May
And
12th.
we have a special price that's only available for 10 women. Actually, only 9 because one of them already bought it. So 9 women get the special price. If you're interested, contact one of us.
Yes, that's a private thing. You've got to DM us. And I said too, like, this is not going to be for everyone. You know, we're not saying it's, and there is an intake form. This is also, you know, if you read it and you're very comfortable with it and you want to join, yes, it's not that we have to have interviews with everyone before you come, but there is an intake form, and we're here to answer any questions. And it's also this beautiful seduction into this. And Seven and I'm going to be inside of Seven's Facebook group as well. And we're going to be here talking and nurturing. We're here to answer any questions, but also to keep on parting this absolute depth of the feminine, of how we walk on the world, in the world, walk on our planet, within ourselves, and how it is so intrinsically connected to our orgasmic nature. It is not separate. We have been completely stripped and robbed of our innate nature for control, and it is time that as we lean back in and come back into our body and into our orgasm, into our pleasure, as, you know, Seven was talking about before, you know, it's not this thing we have all of the list and we do everything and we try and go to a corner or an end of a day or a Sunday or a Saturday morning for it. It's how we exist in our life. And this is the depth of our autonomy as a feminine. We're not here to ask. We're not here to wait till our partners get it. We're not here to wait till they slow down. We don't have to teach them. We need to embody it, which is consistency, and have that autonomy for ourselves. And there's a really beautiful saying which comes from, you know, the erotic blueprint community. Jai is always saying it, but it's, and, you know, remember when I first heard it, it was like, well, just because the way that, anyway, that doesn't, but the more it gets it, the more I say it, the deeper, because also it's deep water, but it's this beautiful saying of a rising tide lifts all boats. Yeah, when we do our work, all that around us also shifts and changes. And we know that with our children, you know, both Seven and I are mothers, is like when we do our work, the shift, you know, and it's so profound. It's like our children reach out and say things to us. It was like, oh, interesting. We've shifted, moved, made changes, and they reflect it back. And so that's the same thing in relationship. It's the same thing in your community. When you do your, and especially for women, this is also too, it's so important for women to claim their sovereignty as for other women. When we receive, other women are able to receive. When we shine, it gives permission. You know, we're the ones that need to be giving permission and claiming that space for women. We're not asking family, relationship, partner, bosses. We're not out there to ask all of that. We claim it for ourselves, and then that gives permission for other women. It's the ripple effect.
Love it.
Thank you so much for what an incredible way. I mean, I've been out with my garden, you know, this morning, all of my plants and everything, and then to come in to speak to you, it's just been such a gorgeous, glorious way to start the day. So if anyone's got any questions, I'm going to put the link down there if you want. If you're like, yes, we, as Seven said, we had 10, now we've got 9, and we just released it yesterday. Got 9 spots for the special secret price, because we like doing things that way. It's like, come into our corner, the whispers, the whispers of joy and flourishing. Please let us know, and let us know if you have any questions. And yeah, come on this journey with us through the gateways into your palace. I love that word from the Taoist culture, the feminine gateways, a palace, our body is a palace, our sex is our palace. So yes. Thank you, darling.
Thank you.
So much.
Fun. All right. Ciao, everyone.
Bye-bye. Oh, I just want to, I have to end. Hang on.